Welcome to our breakfast seminar this morning, looking at how virtual reality and augmented reality are revolutionizing both the business-to-business sales process as well as marketing for organizations. My name is Sami Hamid, and I am the producer at Glitch, as well as a mentor at VR First, which is a VR incubation space with over 28 laboratories based all around the world. I also consider myself a bit of an evangelist and an enabler, meaning I'm helping individuals like yourselves and organizations like yours connect with immersive technology and emerging technology as well. So over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to be giving you all a crash course on VR. I'm going to keep it very away from the tech, because I know we've also got some tech heads in the room today, but really looking at how VR is being used as a how should I say this, as a sales tool, looking at some of the ROIs, looking at some of the advantages that cross over to the buying process, and then some case studies. And then I'll be handing the stage over to Morten Schoyen from Eltek, who's going to be talking a little bit more around their experience in using VR over 2017 and 18 within a marketing and sales context at events and exhibitions all around the world. So, who are Glitch? We are an immersive agency. Basically, we look to connect our clients and their brands to their customers and their clients, bridging that gap with immersive technology such as virtual reality and augmented reality. Glitch was established 2 years ago by three very different individuals. Tobias, in the corner of the room there, is our scriptwriter and director with over 12 years of experience. Borge, who's not here today, is our brand consultant and designer with over 15, and myself, a project manager with a twist of game development for over 10 years. And we came together to build basically a digital marketing agency that does the full spectrum of more traditional marketing services, such as web design, brochure design, video production, CGI production, but then augmenting that with immersive technology such as VR and AR. And of course, a unique company is nothing without a super unique team, and we're really proud to have such a talented team in Glitch from very, very different backgrounds themselves. We have a few in the room. We have Stefan in the corner, John, and also Camilla here from Glitch. And we have another, quite a few people based in our three offices all around Oslo, Istanbul, and also London. So apart from marketeers, these individuals are also, I would describe them as pioneers, because they're looking at this technology as it continues to change and develop very rapidly, especially for those in the industry moving forward. So I'm not going to burn our time this morning talking about the tech. So I'm going to be concentrating my time on identifying the advantages around VR, so what makes it such a great immersive technology, and then linking that through to the buying process and trying to find some similarities between the two to suggest how VR is actually augmenting the buying process and, of course, the sales process as well. But first, I want to just make sure we're all on the same page by kind of defining the differences between virtual reality and augmented reality. So VR, which you tried today, there was the Oculus Rift and also the HTC Vive, is all about taking your user or customer somewhere else. So that could be moving that user to a factory floor or an office floor or a showroom or any kind of environment that might best represent your brand or maybe explain your complex product. This year, we're going to be seeing some major changes in the technology. It'll be losing that very annoying cable. The graphics will be getting better. It'll be getting smaller and lighter, which we were talking about a little bit earlier, that it's still a little bit inconvenient, but it is definitely seeing leaps and bounds over 2018. AR, on the other hand, is about bringing something to your customer. So keeping your user in this space and bringing something to them. Augmented reality, also known as mixed reality, but I'm just going to keep it simple and call it AR, has both mobile applications, which we were showing today using AR Core, and of course HoloLens and the Magic Leap, which are headsets. And it should be noted that AR, when I say AR, most people go, oh yes, 2012, QR code-based AR. That's not what AR is today. Right now, AR simply with your phone is able to recognize the floor, the walls, the ceiling, and then with that map, bring digital objects into the space. So it's definitely much, much more developed than it was 4 or 5 years ago. So summarizing, VR takes your customer somewhere else. AR brings something to your customer is the best way of defining the two. So what are the kind of advantages of VR and AR on a more holistic level? Why should we even care about this immersive technology? And I think that's the starting point, is to define immersion. I mentioned earlier, Glitch is an immersive agency. It's a word that a lot of people are not very familiar with yet. So I think we should define the word immerse. By definition, it means to be completely engrossed and engaged with an activity, and that activity is demanding your full attention and concentration. And that is exactly what VR and AR does as a very, very powerful tool. So imagine if you were watching an advert on TV of a real handsome guy walking into a bar or a beautiful woman driving a sports car down a road. The first thing your brain is going to be telling you is, okay, I'm seeing a story. I'm seeing someone else's story. And there's a gap between you, the user, or the viewer in this case, and of course, the content. And I think that's really clear to define, is that gap. In VR and AR, you are that individual walking into the bar. You are that individual driving that sports car. And so from that story, making that story personal to the user, you're turning it into an actual experience, a very, very engaging experience. And that engagement in VR is, of course, much, much higher. If you're watching a video or listening to me talking right now, you might be lucky to retain 20-25% of what I'm saying to you. But of course, when you're engaged in an experience that allows you to interact, explore, or even play, which is of course what humans love to do, you're going to be making that story very much an investment. It's going to be an experience that you invest in. And that investment will be both psychological and also emotional. So by allowing the user to make the experience their own, by allowing them to interact, explore, even play within that experience, they are going to be psychologically invested in that experience. And of course, this is where the magic really happens. By allowing the user to take ownership of that experience and that gap that I mentioned earlier between the user and the content, that gap disappears. What you're actually getting is a formation of a memory. And this is a very common cone of learning, and it looks at how different aspects of learning are learned in different ways. So high abstraction, such as text, what I'm doing right now, is pretty hard to retain, all the way down to direct, purposeful experiences where you actually form an experiential memory, a long-lasting, profound, personal memory, which lasts much, much longer. And of course, that is exactly what virtual reality and augmented reality offer their users. So how do you define an effective sales solution? I'm going to put VR and AR on the shelf just for a moment so we can look at the sales solution and then bring VR and AR back and see if we can find any sort of links and similarities between the two. And to help us achieve this, I think it's important that we look at the buying process, also known as the buying funnel. So for any sales reps in the room, I'm sure you're very familiar with this, but I'll very briefly kind of run through this so everyone is on the same page. The first step during the buying process is awareness. The buyer needs to understand that they have a problem that needs solving. You wake up in the morning, you've run out of toothpaste, that's a problem. You need to buy toothpaste. But that can be also internalized as well as externalized. So internalized, you know you have a problem. Externalized could be seeing a billboard advert of a guy with beautiful white teeth and you say, okay, I need to have those white teeth. So internal and external awareness of a problem. Research, 60% of the buying process happens during this period. And that is where the potential buyer is aware that they have a need to be solved and they're going around and looking for that potential solution. That could be word of mouth, that could be website, that could be print, it could be video, anything that will allow them to look at what they have as a potential solution to their given problem. And then, of course, comparison. And this stage is critical in terms of how engaged the potential buyer is in what they're seeing. So they've collated all these potential solutions for themselves, and they're going to start to weigh up which is the best solution for them to be investing in. And then finally, of course, you have the buying decision, the actual purchase. So extrapolating from this, what can we define as kind of effective sales solutions that we should be aware of? So engagement and involvement. If your customer is not engaged and aware of their problem, they ain't buying. It's as simple as that. 2, being aware of their problem also means they have to understand the complexity of that. Not all problems are as simple as, say, buying toothpaste. They might actually be dealing with quite complex problems, and then understanding, of course, their solutions. They need to understand your solution quickly and effectively. If they don't understand your solution, if you don't manage to close that gap with the potential buyer quickly, you run the risk of them saying, don't really get what's going on here. And then, of course, ensure that they see why your solution is at the top of the pile in comparison to other potential solutions for their problem. And then finally, making sure that it is scalable and cost effective. So if your solution is to, say, take your potential client to your factory floor, which is based in the rural parts of South America, even if it results in a 100% success ratio, that is not a scalable and cost-effective solution. It's going to be costing you a lot of money as your sales strategy continues to increase. So why is VR and AR an effective sales solution? Well, offers highly engaging and involving experiences. When a sales representative walks into a sales meeting, they need to tell a story in the context of that prospective buyer. And virtual reality and augmented reality allow you to do that not only from a kind of an extraordinary level, but of course on a very, very personal level as well. They need to be able to communicate complex ideas quickly and effectively. So virtual reality allows you to reach that whole eureka moment, now I get it, with the client by explaining the problem that they could have very, very effectively in a clear and concise message, allowing the sales representative to move quickly forward to actually talking about how their solution is the solution that they want to go for. And as I mentioned earlier, with virtual reality and augmented reality, because that personal memory is formed, because that kind of engagement with your solution happens in the experience, you're increasing the chance of that potential buyer going away, and during that research process, which will happen, and the comparison process, which will happen away from the sales representative, it's just a given, you are increasing the chances that your solution will come out on top during that comparison process. And then, of course, it is very cost effective. You're able to purchase, or you're able to invest in a one-time solution, which is scalable regardless of where your offices are located around the world. And of course, in terms of dealing with complex products, large products, you're able to bring those into this space in AR, or bring the customer to them in VR far more effectively than, say, moving a large machine into an exhibition or sending your client to your factory in rural South America. So to summarize, bringing it back to the sales funnel, it increases engagement, which means the potential buyer is very much aware of their problem. It assists with the research aspect because they're able to understand their problem far more effectively, and of course understand your solution to their problem far more effectively. It stays with them much longer afterwards with that experiential memory. They have personally invested in that experience, so there is some psychological and emotional connection between your solution and their problem. And then, of course, it increases these sales while reducing costs and also speeds up the buying process as well. So, all good and well, I can hear you say, but where do we have some proof of this? Where do we have some use cases that we can look at that actually show that this is happening in different markets and in different parts of the world? So the first one I'll talk about is Thomas Cook. So as we know, it's a very large travel agency based out of the UK. And they did a virtual reality experience that allowed users to explore Manhattan in a helicopter experience, explore Manhattan before they actually purchased a ticket and a package to go there. And they launched this experience in their flagship store in the UK. And what they saw was during the days that the virtual reality experience was on offer, they had an increase of 190% of people purchasing trips going to the United States, which shows when users had an opportunity to make that a personal experience, they went there in VR, they had a much more confident decision when it came to the actual buying process. The British Army made again a VR experience that allowed potential recruits the opportunity to experience what it's like to be in the British Army. So they had opportunities to parachute out of aeroplanes in VR, driving tanks in VR, as well as, I believe, combat training in virtual reality. And so they wanted to see what kind of increase in recruits they had at fairs that had and didn't have this virtual reality experience. And they found that when they were using VR at these recruitment fairs, they saw a 66% increase in potential recruits. And again, these individuals were able to identify with and own that experience and again make a far more confident buying decision, in this case recruitment decision, into the British Army. So for augmented reality, Lowe's Home Depot, which I believe is an American chain of home renovation stores, they wanted to build an augmented reality application that allowed their potential buyers the opportunity to see what their home renovation was going to look like before it was actually finished. And so they built an AR experience that could be downloaded by the user and also tried in their store. Their problem was 50% of buyers in their industry do not follow through with the buying decision because they cannot visualize and understand what that solution is going to look like before they've invested the money. So what they found was not only happier customers when they were using the AR experience, but of course a much larger follow-through to actually investing money in these decisions after having experienced them in augmented reality first. So where is it being used? Where are we seeing VR and AR being used in a sales context? Well, obviously conferences and exhibitions. VR is still very much a people magnet, I suppose you would call it that. And so it's being used in the context of drawing a crowd at exhibitions, events, and activities, public installations. But as the form factor gets smaller, as it gets more convenient, ease of use, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be seeing some hardware changes, especially this year. It's definitely starting to make an appearance in sales meetings, either at your office or at your client's office or anywhere really, maybe even the pub. And I think this is a good opportunity to hand over the stage to Morten from Eltek.
Just seeing the picture now, I don't think I've ever seen looked so serious in a pub before. Okay, very quick introduction to Eltek. We are a company that's been around since the early 70s, located in Drammen, the center of the world for us. We have around 2,000 employees worldwide and have offices in around 40 countries. So we are global. And we can stand with our head high and claim that we are market leaders in power solutions for the ICT industry. So our core competence or core product is this very exciting box, which is a power converter. And in our solutions, we depending on the kind of application, we can put a number of these into systems, which can be anything from a small wall-mounted thing to solutions which covers several times the size of this room. And then we invest some 30-40 million, and you spend 2-3 years, and we launch a new product exactly in the same kind of box, looking exactly the same, perhaps with a different text on the front. But anyway, it's a product and solution which requires quite a lot of creativity in marketing these kind of solutions. So here we have worked with Glitch for many years, have created a lot of very good stuff, and even our competitors are coming to us and stating time and time again that they are actually envious on us on how we are managing to stand out in this market. We focus a lot on being mentors, being experts that are sort of sharing the expertise that we have built up over the years. We moved from a more challenger brand platform to the more mentor a couple of years back as we became market leaders in this field. Then, of course, we use a lot of other more traditional channels, videos, to some extent, advertisements, web is becoming, as of course always been important for many years, will be even more so moving forward in our interaction with our customers. But still, there's a lot of challenges. I mean, it is a simple product, but yet the solutions are quite complex, and it's not easy to get the message across to our clients. It's a lot of different parameters that we need to convey to our customers, and it is difficult to get those across in an easy way. You really have to spend a lot of time tackling all the different angles to make sure that our customers really understand our solutions and the true benefits of them. And also bringing either the clients to us and the products, or vice versa, bringing the products to the clients can be very costly. So that's why we, about 2 years ago now, started this process on seeing how we could utilize VR in conveying this message to our customers. And I must say that we have had quite a good success with that. Here's some examples of shots from within the VR, which you have already seen. So the ability to really bring our customers into our solutions and experience them from inside has given us a tremendous opportunity to really get this message across. Yeah, so the solution has been to create this virtual reality showroom, a showroom which is very much constantly being developed, and it's used by our sales representatives all over the world. Very easy to, as we have just now invested in a number of stations around the world, or PCs, complete solutions. Extremely easy to distribute this to everyone. And it's, to get, there's no other way, as I see, to make our message as clear and understandable as through the VR. And it truly bridges the gap between the client's problem or challenges with our solutions. And it can be brought anywhere and experienced at any time, as Sami has talked about in exhibitions, in customer meetings, even in the pub. So this is one stand which we will, we're in the process of setting up now, I guess, or we'll start early in a couple of days in London. for a data center exhibition with, I guess you can't see it here, with a nice VR setup here in the stand. And as Sami said, it's besides being a very good way to get the message across, it's also very much a people's magnet. It's really pulling people to the stand. Quite often in exhibitions, you know, we're always trying to pull enough people into the stand. Having the VR, we've seen several cases where it's more the other way around. It's like, get out to get some new clients in, because they go in and they really, you know, spend time to get into the solutions and understand what's going on. So it's really effectful. And here just another picture from actually this was the first exhibition we brought in Singapore, also a data center exhibition, where it was a great success. And we are not serving virtual coffee, but the virtual reality is behind there again, full of people. And just to explain, you know, the cost benefit. This is a container that we built as a what's called a modular data center, which is a market that's taking off quite a lot, having small data centers that are distributed around, which is necessary in the coming telecom infrastructure. And just to build and send this thing around the world is easily 3 million Norwegian kroners. So instead of doing that, having a virtual reality setup where you can create the software and distribute this throughout our sales organization, we could have done it in a fraction of the cost, and also bring a lot of additional value into the customer interaction, where the customer can perhaps do some configuration or a lot of more interaction that can really give them opportunity to explore the solution in a completely different way. And then just some examples on how we have created different solutions. This is a power container. It's a data center in the background. So a full, complete power container that we have manufactured elsewhere and then shipped to site. From inside this container, this is, I guess you have seen from kind of a warehouse where you can move around to the different experiences that we have created. Opening scene from this modular data center experience. This is inside the power room in the modular data center. Some control stuff. And then also, lastly, as a bonus, I mean, Eltek, we have a strong focus on being technology leaders in the products and in the solutions that we are providing to our customers. A secondary thought with bringing on VR, and that's also been a great success, is the fact that being so advanced in the marketing, we are really underlining our technology leadership in the market. And again, of course, all the customers are also giving us a lot of good feedback on this, but also the competitors are coming with their tails between their legs and being very envious again on us being able to not only be a step, but more like a leap ahead of competition in how we are perceived in the market. So that was a quick intro to us and how we have utilized VR. Thank you.